The story focused on a beautiful woman named Emma who was carrying out a mission from a man on a telephone call. After carrying out that mission in Buenos Aires, Argentina, Emma immediately got rid of her disguise and returned to America. Upon arrival at home, Emma was greeted by her two children. To her husband, Dave, she admitted that she had just returned from Nebraska on a domestic trip as manager of the company where she worked, covering the fact that she just returned after carrying a mission as an assassin. Unfortunately, she forgot that that day was their 7th wedding anniversary, and that was enough to make her feel guilty. The next morning, when Emma was preparing breakfast for her family, suddenly Raj, the person who always arranged her work, reported that the client was satisfied with her work and they had received payment for the work. Raj warned Emma to avoid attention because her photo had reappeared on the dark web bounty list, and fortunately, Raj had deleted her name from the list. Raj then gave her a new mission. However, Emma refused because she had just arrived at home, but Raj kept forcing her to accept the job because the client wanted the best from them. They were even ready to pay a lot of money if she agreed. That money would be enough for her to save herself and her family from Sovereign, an assassin syndicate that put her name on the list on the dark web. That night, Dave intended to take Emma on holiday to celebrate their wedding anniversary, but she refused because she was afraid of disappointing her family, knowing every time she made a promise, she would always fail to keep her promise. Dave didn't run out of ideas. He gave Emma a nurse costume for her to use as a fantasy for their sex, but Emma had another plan. She invited Dave to meet tomorrow night at a hotel bar, met using pseudonyms, and would pretend they had just met. They would then book a hotel room there to spend the night together in a role play. In the morning, Emma told Molly, Dave's sister, about the plan and asked her to look after their children. Long story short, in the evening, Emma arrived first at the Royal Grand, a luxury hotel where she would meet with Dave. Meanwhile, in another place, Dave was caught in traffic jams, and when he wanted to message Emma about it, he lost the signal. At the bar, Emma was approached by an old guy who kept looking at her, who then tried to get acquainted with her. At first, Emma just ignored the man, but ended up lying. She claimed to be Alice Overby, an accountant for a certain company. The man, whose name was Bob Kellerman, continued to approach her until suddenly Dave, who was late, finally arrived there. Realizing that Emma was not really responding to him, and instead continued to look at the man in the corner of the bar who had just arrived, Bob finally excused himself to leave for a moment. Dave then approached and pretended to be a guy named Jack Dawson. He played his role and pretended to meet Emma for the first time. When Dave ordered a drink for them, Bob returned and said that he had just won a big contract, so he wanted to treat them a drink to celebrate this achievement. Bob cheered while saying something that might have a hidden meaning behind it. After drinking, Bob gave his room number to them, should they want to continue partying together. Long story short, Emma and Dave went to their room. Emma played some music and told Dave to wait on the bed because she wanted to clean herself first at the toilet, but it seemed like she was deliberately stalling until Dave finally fell asleep. Emma wrote a message on a piece of paper and then left. While looking at the timer she set on her cell phone, it turned out that Emma visited Bob's room. Bob turned out to be a mercenary who had just killed a person in the government. He felt lucky when he accidentally saw the most wanted assassin, Anna Peller, in front of him. After making sure he didn't hit the wrong target, Bob gave her his room number, but instead of intending to kill her and take the payment from Sovereign, Bob was confused as to why she left the leading assassin syndicate. Even Sovereign only wanted her to be arrested and not killed. It was finally revealed that Emma was an assassin named Anna Peller who used to work for a syndicate of assassins called Sovereign, but for unknown reasons, she ran away and changed her identity. Since that day she left, the leader of the syndicate, Gwen Carver, hunted her down. Bob told her that he would give her 40% of his payment if she wanted to work with him, since he wasn't a part of any mercenary syndicate and only worked for the highest pay. He threatened to kill her if she refused and took the payment from Sovereign. Of course, Emma refused the offer and said that she already had an intermediary and had no intention of cooperating with him. Apart from that, the drink that Bob drank at the bar had been poisoned, and in a matter of minutes, he would die because of it, And soon after she said that, she looked at the finished timer on her phone and Bob died soon after. When she was about to take Bob's gun, Dave, who had woken up, called and asked where she was, but suddenly Bob, who was not dead and only blinded due to the poison, began shooting his gun, and after hanging up the phone from Dave, Emma easily eliminated him. Finished with her business, Emma returned to the room and continued the real purpose she was there with Dave. Arriving home the very next day, while having breakfast with Dave and her children, Emma was too occupied with her phone. She was sending a message to Raj telling him what happened last night, even ignoring Dave, who tried to talk to her several times. Not long after that, Raj called, and this made Dave wonder what Emma was hiding from him. Raj once again told her not to stand out too much because this incident might hit the news and Gwen Carver might soon know where she was. He then told Emma to immediately leave for the airport. Meanwhile, Dave got a call from Molly, telling him that there was a murder in the Royal Grand Hotel, the hotel he stayed in last night with Emma, and sent him a link to the news. He was surprised when he saw that the victim was the man who had been chatting with them at the bar last night. Dave panicked and then told Emma that the police suspected a couple who was talking with the victim. That couple was none other than them. Dave, who was sure that he and Emma were not the perpetrators, planned to contact the police first before the police found photos of their faces and identities. However, because they booked the hotel room under a pseudonym, this would certainly strengthen the motive if they were the perpetrators of the murder. Dave finally backed down his intention and complied with Emma to wait for the police to come for them. Emma then said that she had to leave for a flight because of a sudden meeting from her office. Even though Dave initially forbade her because she had just returned from another job, he finally let her go. The next day, after saying goodbye to her 2 children, Dave told her that he would pick her up at the airport on Monday after she returned. After Emma left, Davey continued to follow up the news of Bob's murder on social media. The police had found photos of him and Emma from the hotel's CCTV footage, and sooner or later, the police would definitely find out their identities. He panicked even more when Emma's number was not active when he tried to call her. Even on the day of her scheduled arrival, it turned out that Emma's name wasn't listed on her flight. When Dave returned to his car, finally what he was afraid of happened. 2 detectives from NYPD intercepted him and took him to their office. They interrogated him, asking about Bob Kellerman, who was killed at the Royal Grand Hotel, and the reason he used a pseudonym. Dave told the truth that he had just met Bob Kellerman and using a pseudonym was a silly idea to play a role pretending to be strangers with his wife to spice up their relationship. That reason was of course considered unreasonable by the detectives. Not long afterward, an FBI agent named Carver came in and told Dave that his wife was not the real Emma Breckett. He was shocked to find out that the woman he married was using a stolen identity from a woman who died 8 years ago. For the last 7 years, she had managed to live her fake life with him. Dave was shown a photo of his wife at an airport in Buenos Aires last week, and this made him realize that Emma had lied to him about Nebraska. He also found out the true identity of the man he met at the bar, where he was a mercenary named Derek Worley and not Bob Kellerman. Dave was even more shocked when he found out that Raj was not the supervisor of the company where Emma worked, but the person who found clients for her job as an assassin. Dave also found out that his wife was the most wanted assassin on several continents. At first, he thought it was just a big joke, but he immediately realized that everyone in the room was taking the topic so seriously. Dave immediately returned home and looked for Emma's secret items until finally he found a secret safe containing wigs, a fake passport, and firearms. After all the truth emerged, Dave began to hesitate to trust his wife. He wanted to talk to the woman he married before deciding what to do because he loved her. Dave refused Agent Carver's attempts to search his house and her attempts to convince him that his wife was a criminal. In Berlin, several Sovereign members had followed Emma, who was trying to escape. Though Emma had tried to outwit them, they still followed her every step until finally she managed to knock out one of them. Even though Emma managed to escape from the shootout with the remaining Sovereign mercenaries, Raj unfortunately died after being shot. Meanwhile, after the police left, Dave called every number on several business cards he found in Emma's secret safe, and one of the numbers was successfully connected. Emma received the call, and Dave immediately found out that Emma was in Berlin from the telephone number. Dave, who wanted to discuss this issue, directly ignored Emma's prohibition on following him to Berlin. Short story, Emma and Dave finally met in a bar in Berlin. Emma finally came clean about her past. She admitted that her real name was Anna, and since childhood, she had been trained to be an assassin. Her father was a secret agent who decided to retire early and start his own business. Sovereign was a private security company that his father built with an FBI agent named Gwen Carver, the same woman who introduced Dave to who Emma really was. Anna was taken by Carver after her father was killed. She had been introduced to violence at a young age and was trained to kill for years. She believed every word Carver said and believed every task given to her at that time was to eradicate crime by killing bad people. But as she grew older, she began to realize that it was all but lies. One day, she met Dave when she had a job in Boston, and for the first time, she felt that someone truly appreciated and cared about her. Since then, all she wanted was a normal life. Even though she still took a job once or twice a year, it was nothing more than to pay for the protection of his family from being searched by Sovereign. After explaining every detail Emma said about herself and all the lies, she begged Dave to believe that her feelings all this time were sincere love. Emma fled to Berlin to get a Canadian passport for Davy and the children so that they could start their lives in a new place. She promised that if all the problems with Sovereign were resolved, she no longer wanted to be an assassin. Even after knowing everything about his wife, Dave said that he still loved her. Not long after, several Sovereign mercenaries came and attacked them. They made them unconscious and took them. When Emma finally woke up, she found out that Carver had not only kidnapped her and Dave, but also her 2 children. Carver offered Emma a second chance to return to Sovereign, and Emma agreed on a condition that Carver wouldn't harm her children. Carver agreed with this, and then told her to finish off Dave because he was the only thing that would hinder her missions. After that conversation, Emma took Dave into the forest. While walking, she told Dave that a sniper was watching their every movement. While they continued to walk, Emma was thinking about what plan she would do, and suddenly, she shot Dave, making him fall to the ground. Shortly after, another Sovereign member came to confirm that Dave had really been killed by Emma. When the woman examined Dave's body, Emma attacked her just when a tree blocked the view of the sniper who was watching them. Dave woke up soon after Emma killed the woman. It turned out that Emma had positioned her shot at a safe spot so that the shot would only cause a light injury. She also succeeded in killing the sniper who was monitoring them. Emma and Dave sneaked into the building where her children and Carver were. After eliminating some other guards, Emma and Dave split up. She would take care of the other mercenaries while Dave would save their children. Emma had to face another mercenary who was guarding the building. After a fierce battle, Emma finally managed to defeat the woman. Long story short, Carver, who was trying to escape, was shocked by the presence of Emma, who had been there. They fought, and Emma managed to shoot her. After shooting Carver, Emma didn't immediately finish her off because she knew she had shot her in a fatal place, so she slowly walked away, returning to the building to pick up her little family. She proved that for her family, she would sacrifice even her life. After the days of being an assassin, Emma finally returned to her normal life with her family like before.